Okay. Good evening, everyone. This is David Brown, CEO of Activz, and I'm here with two of our prestigious members of our advisory board, Dr. Joe Maroon and his colleague of many years, Jeff Bost. They are joining us from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, where it's probably warmer than it is here in Salt Lake City, where spring has decided to take a vacation and revert back to winter for a few days. But we're glad to have you. We welcome them. Hello, Dr. Maroon, and hello, Jeff. How are you doing today?
Hello, David. Hello, David. Very good. Very well, thank you. Thanks.
Well, it's great. Well, everyone that's on this call, I think, has had the opportunity to read the bios that we published about you, and they're very impressive. Probably wonder how in the world a company like ours, with Activz, a startup and engaged in network marketing, among other activities, was able to attract people like you to our advisory board. And so maybe you might explain a little bit about what it was about Activz that attracted you and why you decided to join us.
Sure, David. I'm a neurosurgeon here at the university, and I'm very interested in wellness, in good health, which means diet, exercise, control of toxins in our environment, and stress. And a healthy diet for me for many years has involved the use of various types of supplements. And I had the opportunity to meet not only you, but your various corporate officers, as well as many of the employees of Activz. And any decision that I make relative to being affiliated with any company or organization is really based on people. And I have to say, and I'll say it to your face if I may, you put together a terrific organization, great people, and you all not only you walk the talk as well as talk the talk. I mean, all of your folk that I met, many of them, I mean, they live what they say and they believe in what they say. So I think the passion that I saw associated with you and your associates is really contagious. So Jeff and I were very pleased, after looking at the various products you have, to get on board with you.
And I'd like to echo that, David.
Sure.
You know, I've worked with Dr. Maroon for over 30 years, and we've seen our fair share of supplements come and go. And I think one of the things that stands out is your ability to research and get the science behind the products. I think that's been a key to our interest in you and your team, and what's working is the products as well. So we're very impressed, and we know that you're doing your research on them.
Well, thank you. Well, you alluded to the years of research that you both have been involved with, but maybe Jeff, we'll start with you this time. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your background and training and the things?
Sure. Yeah, well, as I mentioned, I've been working with Dr. Maroon as a neurosurgical physician assistant for over 30 years at the university, and we've had the chance to help a lot of people surgically over those years. But as Dr. Maroon likes to say, he got tired of fixing the car after it was broken, meaning we just had to go. We see people that are basically ravaged by multiple diseases of the spine, and you know, they really didn't do anything to keep themselves healthy. Rather than being an older car that was kept polished and clean, it was an older car that was falling apart. So we really got interested in healthy lifestyle, healthy living, healthy dietary supplements based on that we wanted to keep people healthy longer. We want to put ourselves out of business, basically. And and I think that worked pretty well. We've been very fortunate to work with many other companies over the time that we've been working on this venture as far as healthy living, especially with working with Dr. Maroon, who's a Ironman triathlete. I'm astonished by what some of the things that, like a healthy diet and exercise and the right dietary supplements can do. So I think we became believers, so to speak, having come from a very traditional world of neurosurgery, who, as Dr. Maroon probably says often, you know, he would scrub next door to the cardiologist or the cardiothoracic surgeon and say, well, do you have all your patients on fish oil? And they'll look at him like he was smoking something, you know, whereas we know that fish oil and other products that have anti-inflammatory properties can work very well as far as reducing the risk for cardiovascular disease. So it really is we're swimming upstream to some degree, but the good news is a lot of traditional medicine is now recognizing the ideas of dietary supplement, healthy living, exercise stress reduction as the way to go.
Well, that's great. We'll hold that thought about anti-inflammation. We're going to talk a little bit more about that later on in our conversation. Dr. Maroon, tell us a little bit more about your background and how you got interested in the things that you are so involved with.
Yeah, sure. I actually have been quite active in sports most of my life. I went to Indiana University, actually, on a football scholarship there, and then eventually went to medical school there, and then had my training at Georgetown University, University of Vermont, Oxford University in England, and then joined the faculty at the University of Pittsburgh. Many years ago, I became involved with the Pittsburgh Steelers as the consultant neurosurgeon. And I also actually work with Jeff and I both a WWE WrestleMania. I know you were probably in WrestleMania last weekend in New York, David, or at least you catch Raw and SmackDown on Monday and Tuesday nights. But these guys are incredible, and women are incredible athletes. So that I've spent my life really working around athletes and participating and competing myself. So as Jeff alluded to the car breaking down, you know, my goal in life is to die young as late as possible, which really means you want to stay healthy as long as possible. None of us want the ravages of dementia, of the terrible things that can happen with age. And so much of these things we can delay and many prevent with appropriate lifestyle changes, which are called now epigenetic factors, above the genes. Factors like we said, diet, exercise, stress control, actually help our bodies to make anti-inflammatory agents that reduce the incidence of cancer, heart disease, stroke, Alzheimer's disease. But it's a total package that we really need to address. Nutrition is a major part of that, but the other things are also critical. And that's what we really want to share with your audience and the folks with whom you work.
Well, that's great. As you know, the reason that we named the company Activz is that we feel like people don't just have to sit back and accept whatever they think life has dealt them. That they really can take control or activate any number of conditions in their life, whether that be at the epigenetic or genetic level, that some things don't have to be the way that you think they have to be, or whether that be from a business opportunity and changing the financial circumstances of their life as well. I remember that when we first met in our offices here in Salt Lake City, we started talking about this product that we're going to be introducing, a product that we now know as Link. And we talk about that as being, you know, the name deriving from the connection between the brain and the gut, which is sometimes referred to as the second brain. We talked about the main ingredient in that product called butyric acid. And Jeff, you made a very, what to me was a profound statement at that time. You said that you and Dr. Maroon had were well aware of the role of butyric acid, and that you'd actually thought about utilizing it in some formulations that you were working with, but that if you felt like someone could actually effectively deal with the taste and the smell associated with butyric acid in its natural state, they might have what you call, quote, the holy grail. What did you mean about that? What is the importance of butyric acid as you see it?
Well, I think that you told a lot there. The idea of butyric acid and the popularity and the benefits of ketones is really become popular, but I don't think people really understand the complex nature of it as far as obtaining it. We know about starvation is one of the ways to increase ketones or other energy metabolites in our body, but to get it orally, to get it as a supplement is one of the most difficult things that anybody could make because of the smell and the processing that's involved in that. And Holy Grail is quite frankly the way that we've stumbled along for many years, and not us, but as an industry, finding that sort of link, if you will, between able to have a functional product and something that is tolerable. And I think when we heard about your product being tolerable, the utilization of the trap, which is a phenomenal advancement, and the ability to have it digest and break down in the place where it can do the most benefit, which is the large intestine, really it checks off all the boxes as far as what butyric acid can be in a form that's palatable and also is absorbable in the right location.
I'll ask you the same thing, Dr. Maroon. What's your, I mean, you and Jeff have been colleagues for some time, and so there's probably not anything that he said that you would disagree with, but would you have anything to add in regards to the importance of butyric acid?
Well, I think, David, what we're really discussing is the gut-brain connection. There's a huge literature now and an incredible amount of science on how the gut or the microbiome, the trillions of bacteria in our intestines, contribute to so many things. It contributes 70% of our immunity, our ability to resist infection, resist diseases. It markedly contributes to the neurotransmitters that are essential for everything we do in our brain. Serotonin is a major product of the gut that affects mood, depression, antidepressant, and butyric acid is a major product that is a major molecule that is formed in the gut, primarily contributed to by prebiotics that contribute to the butyric acid, that then gets absorbed and has effects in terms of neuroprotection, in terms of immunity, and anti-inflammation. So we're talking about a major brain-gut connection and the products and molecules that go into that.
Well, you mentioned earlier, both of you, that one of the things that you were attracted to with Activz is the science behind our products. And we really have been very fortunate as a company in having products and technology introduced to us that we can then share with others. And so the multi-channel approach that we're taking is our method of getting it out there and getting these products into the hands of people so they can really make a difference in their lives. You both have mentioned anti-inflammatories, inflammation. We all know about the inflammation that comes from, like you, Joe, I played football. I was the pride and joy of South Summit High School. My graduating class was 55 people. So yes, it was a small school, which is why I was able to play football. They probably actually wouldn't agree with me. They'd say, you were the pride and joy. You were, but I played quarterback also. So I know a little bit about the inflammation that comes from physical impacts, and whether from sprained ankles, from blows that you take, and there's that type of inflammation, and there's pain often associated with that. And so anything that you can do to alleviate that kind of inflammation that occurs through physical injury and things like that. But there's other types of inflammation, isn't there, that is increasingly being talked about. And maybe you can talk about the importance of trying to reduce inflammation throughout the body.
Well, I think you're alluding to what's now called silent inflammation, David. And if you get a splinter under your finger, it gets red hot, tender, and swollen. And that's because various agents called cytokines and chemokines rush to that area and release agents that help, actually it's protective in some respects, to wall off the problem. However, if we eat a diet of prepared meats and food from fast food chains that with beef fed corn from Iowa with glyphosate, antibiotics and hormones, you know, it turns on silent inflammation in our bodies. So what does that mean? People who eventually have a heart attack have for many years, most likely, had silent inflammation in the blood vessels, their coronary arteries. And eventually that silent inflammation causes a plaque, and then it ruptures, and then it blocks off the artery. But it's been going on for many years. So whatever we can do to reduce inflammation, it affects our brain, it affects our joints, and it affects our heart. And as I said, it's silent. So that's why whatever we can do, it's an anti-inflammatory in our diet, and exercise greatly reduces, in moderation, reduces inflammation, as well as stress. Stress is a major inflammatory agent that can cause blood clotting and actually catastrophic complications from blood clotting in your veins as well as arteries. So what we do is, as you said initially, it's a lifestyle that we have to incorporate, an active, if you would, lifestyle, along with dietary supplements and ingredients that will modify that.
So that's great information. We're hearing more and more about this silent inflammation, chronic low-grade inflammation being linked to all types of things, largely diet and lifestyle, whether it be eating meat or lots of sugar and lots of processed food, carbohydrates, that type of thing. Jeff, you talked about epigenetics and the fact that we can make a change on these genes. And I guess we are doing that by virtue of the diet. If we're eating bad stuff, we're having an epigenetic effect in a negative way upon our genes and these cytokines that are producing inflammation. But what can people do in a positive way in terms of decreasing the likelihood of this silent killer, this silent inflammation from increasing?
Right. Well, it's like you said, David, it's the yin and the yang. We have inflammatory diets, an inflammatory lifestyle, inflammatory stress that can activate a negative cascade through the epigenetic pathway. The same thing is true in the opposite way. We can have a healthy lifestyle, reduce stress, and take supplements that are known to have reduction in inflammation, maintain a healthy weight, because weight and the chemicals that are excreted from extra fat cells can actually form inflammatory molecules. So epigenetics, again, we use the word taking control, and that's what you just used earlier, the idea that you can take control. People say, oh, everybody says to lose weight, everybody says to get healthy. Well, how does that really help me? And the fact is, it's done on a cellular basis. Every cell in our body has a DNA in it, except red blood cells, for example. And that DNA is just sitting there as a blueprint, and Dr. Maroon says this very eloquently, and it's just acted upon when these things outside of the DNA act upon it. So, for example, stress will cause molecules to be made that are inflammatory, whereas if you meditate, use healthy lifestyles, you can activate genes that are anti-inflammatory, produce anti-inflammatory proteins that can really have a benefit. So, it's not a coincidence that if you lose weight and have type 2 diabetes, your type 2 diabetes may go away. Well, is it because you have, all of a sudden lost all the weight? But it's not the weight per se, it's the molecules, inflammatory molecules that came with that weight that really have reduced the inflammatory load, help preserve the pancreas, help preserve the absorption of insulin. And there's so many different conditions that we can cite in the same way relative to coronary artery disease and brain plaques and so on.
David, as a neurosurgeon, one of the things that I'm confronted with every day is significant stress, not only in myself, but also in patients who are waiting to go into the operating room, for instance, to have major neurosurgery, brain, spinal problems. And what I've found is, and I've documented this, as you know, in a book that I've written, Square One, A Simple Guide to a Balanced Life. And what I've addressed in this are these specific factors that we're talking about. How diet, how exercise, how not smoking, excessive drinking, and controlling stress, how these work together to contribute to a healthy life. And as Jeff and you both emphasized, these are choices we make. It's a choice what we put into our mouth every day. It's a choice whether or not we get our 8,000 or 10,000 steps in. It's a choice whether we want to meditate to control the ubiquitous epidemic stress that comes in our society that is so, and social media. It's such an addictive thing and also stressful. These are choices we have to back off. the thing I emphasize the most is you need awareness. Like the Buddhists say, you have to be aware. You have to be mindful of what you're doing, what your body's doing, what your brain's going through. And then take control as best you can, piecemeal. Don't make changes. You're not going to do it all in one fell swoop, but make those little changes. And that's what we want to convey to your audience and to the folks that are working with you throughout the world.
Well, and that fits right in with what we call the 5 pillars of Activz. We want you to take control. We want people to activate their physical health, their mental health, their emotional health, their social health, and their financial health, because all of those are sources of stress on the one hand, or can be sources of happiness on the other, and contentment. And to some degree, in each of those categories, we feel like we can contribute. We know that, as you know, you deal with young athletes that have been very blessed genetically. They have capabilities that most of us could only dream about. They can run, they can jump, they can lift weights and things in almost a Herculean sense. But that doesn't mean that in all aspects of their lives, they're happy and well balanced and not getting stress. And so there's the emotional aspect of it. And when you don't have money, that's pretty emotionally debilitating. If you do have money but don't have health, that's emotionally debilitating. And when you're not associated with a group of people that are like-minded, trying to make a difference, that's also has its own consequences. So we're trying to help people activate those aspects, and we're looking forward, and we'll announce now that you both will be joining us in Salt Lake City at our ribbon-cutting event for the U.S. market. We're hoping that we'll discuss more of these ideas about a balanced life, how while there are no shortcuts to good health, there are some small things that we can do each and every day, whether that's exercising, whether that's choosing to eat this and not that, and also incorporating things like Link and what we've called Product X. Now, I'm going to be very mindful as we talk about this product, because we don't want to let anything slip too much. We're going to talk a little bit more about the ingredients. We're going to talk a little bit more about its actual name when we get to Salt Lake City in a month or so. But we can tell people, and we have, that it's just like Link and butyric acid is a way to improve gut health and the connection between the brain and the gut and many other things within your body through butyric acid. That this product is going to be very helpful in really developing what we'll call a healthy inflammatory response. As you in your example of the splinter, we don't want to get rid of all inflammation. We want, if there are toxins or pathogens or splinters in our fingers, we want the body to take care of that through good inflammation. But we do want to take care of the bad stuff. When our cells are on fire because of poor decisions we've made or positions that we put ourselves in, and we believe that Product X, like Link, and other things that we have and will introduce will go a long way towards that. So we're looking forward to your presentations and more information and continued involvement with Activz. I'll just say, in conclusion, what are some things you'd like to leave our audience with tonight?
Well, I would say I'm very excited to visit with you in Salt Lake in a couple months, and you're doing a terrific job. You're making a major contribution to helping people help themselves.
Jeff, any last words of advice?
I'm also looking forward to it very much. I think what you just touched upon about Product X, which I will not reveal, we have to think of our body as one of the most finely tuned immune systems ever created. Believe it or not, there weren't antibiotics all the time. So we were around long before antibiotics, and we've survived. And the fact is, we have a super active immune system, and almost in some cases too good. So the idea of something that can manage that silent inflammation is really critical to where we are today.
Well, I'll also let you know, Dr. Maroon, that one of the promotions and contests that we're having is that we are going to have a push-up, pull-up, and a race contest, and they all have to compete with you on stage.
Well, I'll bring my bike.
We know that you're an active Ironman participant. We're divulge your age, but I do know that yeah, you're an amazing example of what's possible at any age. If we choose to set our mind to something, and that's a great example for all of us to follow. I'm a huge believer, and all of us are here at Activz, that will be amazed at what we can accomplish if we can just get it into our heads that we can actually do it. And as you mentioned, it starts with simple decisions, one step at a time. So we appreciate not only the knowledge and experience that both of you bring to the Activz Advisory Board, but also, frankly, the inspiration and the aspirations that you create in all of us as we look at what you've accomplished and what we think we can do in following your examples. So thank you so much for joining us tonight, and we look forward to seeing you in person in Salt Lake City.
Our great
Thanks,
pleasure.
David.
Thank you.
Thank you.